The man who suggested that I join Toastmasters, Ralph C., always had a positive attitude. He was one of those who insisted on calling problems opportunities. This vocabulary choice sometimes irritated me, but I liked working with him because of his positive attitude. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I would like to be that kind of positive person. That's why I picked this project. It's different from other Toastmasters projects I've done. Usually we focus on some kind of skill in public speaking, or at least interaction with other people. This one is all about what goes on inside my own head. The assignment specifically is to keep a journal for at least 2 weeks, writing down each day my positive and negative feelings, challenges and successes, and 3 things that I'm grateful for. I'll talk a bit about the activity of journaling itself, and then the content of the journal, and finally, an evaluation of the experience as a whole. Some people really like journaling. Other people hate it. I'm somewhere in the middle. The times that I have done it, I start out very eager, and I have lots to say, and then as time goes by, I have less and less to say, and I feel like I'm getting repetitious, and it just kind of peters out. I did keep this for 2.5 weeks because that was the assignment. I think there is a definite benefit of journaling, whether you really enjoy doing it or not, which is that it makes you clarify your thinking. Sometimes I think I have a clear idea in my head until I try to put it into words, and it's obviously not that clear. So having to write it down makes me clarify my thinking. As to the content of the journal, one focus was on positive and negative feelings, with the goal to take the negative ones and reframe them in a positive context. For instance, I don't think I'm real good at table topics. I don't think well on my feet. Afterwards, I think great things I could have said, but not while I'm up here, except occasionally I get an easy topic. I could say, well, I'm just not good at this. And if after 10 years of practice in Toastmasters, I haven't gotten better than this, why keep bothering? Or I could look at it in a more positive manner and say, this is not one of my strengths, but if I don't do it, I'm just confirming that I'm no good at it. If I keep at it, week after week, year after year, eventually I may get better. I think that is something that I do on a regular basis. It's not something I just learned about from this project. At least since the time that I knew Ralph C., because that's the way he always thought, and probably before that. So I didn't find myself finding negative things to write about in here. Writing down things that I'm grateful for, on the other hand, I have no problem with. That's again something that I have had a habit of doing for a long time, usually as part of my prayer time in the morning. I found that when I was writing them down, because I don't like being repetitious, I managed to find at least 1 or 2 new things each day that I hadn't put previously. But it wasn't something new that I was learning for this project. The last part of the project was at the end of 2 weeks to look at how it had gone and what changes had happened over 2 weeks. Well, frankly, I didn't identify anything. I don't think, to begin with, that 2 weeks is a long enough period for those kind of changes to really take place. But mostly it was because these are things that I already had been doing. That being said, what benefit did I get from the project? It certainly gave me an easier speech to work on than the one on humor. More importantly, it reminded me of important principles that I already knew and challenged me to think about how I can go beyond thinking positive thoughts myself to creating a positive environment that affects others. That's why I picked the project. The project does talk a little about that, along with active listening and positive feedback, but it didn't give steps to follow or activities, as it did with the journal. In sum, the project was not perhaps what I thought it would be, but to just look at it that way would be a negative view. Instead, I will say it teaches important lessons, reinforced things that I already know and try to practice, and can serve as the impetus for me to try to find ways to make a positive environment that other people can benefit from, as I did from Ralph C. when I worked with him. Mr. Toastmaster.
General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and Colleen, thank you for attending today. Colleen, I very much enjoyed your speech, Are You Positive? And I think the way that you did some personal reflection allowed the rest of us to also engage in some personal reflection about how we interact with the world and how we go out being grateful for what we have, whether we can be glass half empty or glass half full people. I enjoyed your vocal variety and your clarity. As always, you seem very well rehearsed, very comfortable, and you are a very gifted speaker. As for things to work on, I did struggle about midway through, towards the end, to follow the personal narrative. I thought it dragged on maybe a little long, and I kind of forgot what the speech was originally about. So I thought maybe you could include more generalizations about the speech topic at hand, and maybe provide some more general advice for the audience as opposed to the extended personal narrative. In order to challenge yourself, I would encourage you to follow what Sandra told me last week, actually, is try the humorous speech. So you mentioned in your speech that there's another speech you're working on, which is a humorous speech. And I think that that would really stretch your skill set, and I think that there would be a lot of growing opportunity in that. But overall, I really enjoyed the speech, and